heard there were some late parties last night, and people are just waking up. So maybe just to get started, how many of you currently work in Web3? How many of you are thinking about incorporating something having to do with Web3 into your existing business? All right, so this is relevant to a lot of people here. Let's see if this clicker works. This is me. I got my start working on the Ethereum project in 2015, back when it was called that. I ended up as Chief Marketing Officer at a company called Consensus, which today is best known for producing MetaMask. Who here uses MetaMask? That is so amazing to see. So Consensus helped jumpstart the Ethereum ecosystem, created a lot of the core tooling and infrastructure for Ethereum, and funded many of the first projects. In my tenure there as Chief Marketing Officer, I built the first Web3 marketing team. The whole idea of Web3 wasn't really a thing then. The idea of Web3 marketing as a discipline didn't exist. And after about 4 years there, I left to start Serotonin, the marketing and product studio that I currently run. It's over 100 people worldwide. We work with top Web3 native startups, folks like Alchemy, Polygon, if you've ever heard of any of those, Filecoin, and also Web2 and traditional businesses that are getting into Web3, such as Sotheby's, such as Creative Artists Agency, which is the largest global talent agency. And we started Serotonin basically because we wanted to bring the lessons of how we got things like Ethereum and MetaMask to market to the next generation of builders, creating Layer 1s, Layer 2s, DAOs, DeFi, NFTs, Web3 utilities. Raise your hand if you know what any of those mean. Okay, great. So I'm going to start with some tweets from Chris Dixon, who runs A16Z Crypto, which is one of the largest crypto funds. They have billions under management, talking about the difference between the marketing paradigm in Web 2 that people are used to and Web 3. Web 2 is built on advertising. Big companies like Facebook and Google make most of their money on advertising, and many Web 2 startups build their customer base using advertising. When you build a business on advertising, the theory is that if you retain enough customers, the long-term economics will work out and you'll eventually be profitable. Web3 takes a different approach by letting users and builders participate in the growth of the network as genuine owners, skin in the game. That means you no longer need advertising. Tokens are self-marketing. When someone genuinely owns something and feels skin in the game, they want to evangelize it. So that's the inspiration. In this session, we're going to go quickly through the unchanging fundamentals of marketing that don't change at all in Web3, how Web3 marketing is different, how to start Web3 marketing, and what we've seen work well at Serotonin, where we've been able to see probably more Web3 product launches than any other entity ever. The recurring themes that are going to come up throughout are incentive design, solving the 0 to 1 problem, and building community. So marketing fundamentals, I'm going to whip on through these because we know these have existed since the dawn of time. You start by knowing your product. You have to know what it is that you're selling. You have to know your audience. What do they care about? What matters to them? You have to figure out what channels they're on, what are they paying attention to, what are they focusing on. You have to define your key message. Okay, now you're starting to span between your product and your audience. What is the most salient distillation of what that thing is that's going to connect with those people? Then you build your marketing funnel. How are people going to discover that key message for the first time? How are you going to engage those people and put them into a holding tank so you can retarget them and talk to them again? Then how are you going to convert them to using your product? Then how are you going to keep them coming back? Then you're going to have to measure effectiveness at every stage of that marketing funnel and make sure all those different catalysts are working. Don't worry, we'll come back to this. So what's marketing in Web3? When I first got to Consensus and started a marketing team there, people were terrified that we were going to market Ethereum. What does that even mean? You can't run a Facebook campaign trying to reach developers and teach them Solidity. How are you even going to calculate the customer acquisition cost and lifetime customer value of developer learning Solidity, then down the road maybe building a dApp on Ethereum? The attribution's too difficult. The old models wouldn't work. So what we had to do was go back to the original growth hacker roots of the marketing discipline rather than this calcified marketing discipline that evolved in Web 2, focused on just running these big paid campaigns on these giant marketing channels. So, marketing, so starting with, what is Web3 even from a marketing perspective? It's just a set of tools. Like, a lot of us think about Web3 as, NFTs. So we think about a monkey picture. That doesn't make any sense, right? The art use case for NFTs is like using a military tank to transport a kitten. It's a fine use case, but it's just one of many things you can do with it. So Web3 isn't a defined outcome. It's a set of tools you can use for a specific purpose, which is building incentive-aligned communities. And then the cool thing about incentive-aligned communities is that they can make a project self-marketing through skin in the game, which means that you can reach greater scale more efficiently. So what's community in Web3? We hear this word all the time. It sounds kind of high-minded, but it actually means something really specific. And it's the incentive-aligned group that works together toward the success of a project. In the Web 2 world, these categories of builder, investor, and user are completely different from each other, and sometimes they even have adversarial incentives. But what Web3 does is it collapses those three categories into a single incentive-aligned group called community, and these folks really have blended roles. You can have an investor that's contributing to the code base. You can have a user that's an investor. You can have a builder that's also a user. So these distinctions go away. So when you're marketing in Web3, what you're not doing is hiring some Instagram influencer to hawk a vitamin water with #ad. What you're really doing is a matching exercise. You're just connecting projects with users and community members that would participate if only they knew what it was. Then you're solving the 0 to 1 problem of building early community. So you're plugging those people into your incentive design. And then over time, thankfully, you are decentralizing marketing functions to your community. So instead of building up a giant centralized marketing team, you can start depending on those incentivized people to collaborate with you to take the marketing and growth of the project forward. So let's just starkly compare these guys. So Web 2 marketing is this arbitrage that takes place on third-party platforms like Google, like the Google Ads, like the various Meta business suites. So you're constantly paying out and paying the piper. You get addicted in order to keep on reaching your own audience, and your profits come from the margins. In Web 3, we see much more owned and earned marketing on your own channels. Web 2 is just this arb. Web 2 marketing is this arb between the customer acquisition cost and the customer lifetime value. And in Web 3, you're building an incentive-aligned community. The incentives of Web 2 lead you to build a large centralized marketing team. You have to come up with all the good ideas, and as your budget grows, you're going to need more people to manage it. But in Web 3, when you can start depending on the community, your incentive is to actually build a flexible and lean marketing team. Maybe it's a DAO, maybe it's not as many full-time employees, maybe it's people that are contributing time. And in Web 2, it's all top-down marketing activities. In Web 3, it's much more focused on community marketing activities, blowing oxygen on the sparks of what you see your community already doing and helping that grow instead of assuming that you have to do everything yourself. I'm going to show you this really quickly. It's just something for you to take a photo of on your phone. A lot of little text on here. This is the Web3 marketing funnel. It looks a lot like a standard marketing funnel where you get the stage of discovery, engagement, use, retention. This thing called community is basically that engagement holding tank where you keep people stimulated so you can constantly retarget them and convert them to using a new product or feature whenever you have it. A lot here is the same, but a lot of the calls to action are different. Connect your wallet, for example, is a really frequent call to action in our space. When you are marketing to a Web3 audience, and a lot of Web3 products get marketed to non-Web3 audiences, but when you're talking to Web3 people, this is who you're talking to. You're either doing B2D and you're talking to developers, and in that case, what you want to do is hackathons, meetups. That's usually what works really well. Bug bounties, incentives, rewards for building the things that you care about. You want to make sure that your developer documentation is really well done so that when developers actually come to your product, they can do the things you care about. B2B marketing, so now you're talking about enterprises or startups, and the way to think about that is businesses are made of people. You want to think about your product, think about your audience, where they live, those individuals within the company that can influence the buying decision for the product that you care about. And then traders. Even if you don't want to talk to traders, you don't get to decide who your audience is. If you have a token or an NFT project that's floating on the market, traders are going to be interested in learning what's up with it. And so you should probably have a segmented flow so that traders can look up information about that and answer the questions they need in order to make trading decisions. So super quickly, some things that we've seen work really well in our practice. These are a couple examples of a strategy we call instant incumbency. There's a lot of trust required in the crypto space. You're connecting your wallet, you're dealing with value and finance. And so by creating a really strong visual brand, you can inspire more trust and feel legitimate. The wall of trophies. This is, you have users, you have customers. Don't hide your light under a bushel. Showcase who they are. And that increases trust and conversion. Walls of trophies don't have to be logos. They can also be numbers. This is Osmosis, which is a really popular DEX for Cosmos, and their wall of trophies is numbers. Constant co-marketing, social proof, especially in a low-trust space. Making sure that you're not the only one carrying your message, but that your partners that you're working with are also cross-amplifying to their communities. That's really important to get that third-party validation. Organic influencer marketing. The Web3 community is very against paid shills. You can't pay an influencer in certain markets to talk about your project without coming across as inauthentic. What you can do is harness your community and the people that are already incentive aligned with your project to help grow it and talk about it. If you haven't launched your product yet, what you can do is start creating content about the subject matter of your product and use that as a top of funnel and discovery mechanism to get people into your community. And finally, the blockchain is the best CRM known to humankind, customer relationship management. You can use that to know everything about your customers' buying behavior and retarget them. Put them on a allow list so they can get early access to new things. These are a couple examples of retroactive distribution, where Web3 projects distributed tokens proportionally to the people that had a history of using their product in the past. Brilliant idea, because it means that your token holders are going to be the people that already love your project and are more likely to hold on to it. You want to form your early community really thoughtfully, because you have control at the beginning over who joins your community, and later on, if it's the wrong people that are in it for the wrong reasons, that's going to turn away the people that you care about. Finally, a lot of this and more is in my book. It came out in April. I've heard it's now out in Europe. You can buy it on Amazon. Web3 Marketing. It's the first Web3 business book from a major publisher, and it breaks down a lot of these lessons, as well as a non-gossipy version of the story of the start of Ethereum. Thank you so very much. Feel free to contact me, amanda@serotonin.co, and those are all my handles.
Thank you so much, Amanda. Thanks for pulling through after the flight. Thank you.